I think I have it.
Really?
America's new favorite old person, Henry Winkler.
Wow.
He's not that old.
Oh,
But you got to get him young. You got to have we need like a decade with him.
Well, he's
You
not
have
young.
to be in your 90s.
he's 76.
Betty White's
Yeah,
been
you
this.
have to be in your 90s.
Betty
No.
White has been Betty White's been our sweetheart though for 15 or 20
very
years.
long time. What would you say is the minimum
Looked really
requirement
old
then?
for a long
80?
time.
I think 75 is a nice number actually.
I think 85.
Ooh.
She wasn't America's sweetheart old lady till she was like in her late 80s. I mean, everyone loved her from Golden Girls, don't get me wrong, but she didn't become like this Betty White, like, oh my God, every time her name trends, everyone's afraid she's gonna die or she's dying or whatever. Like, you guys remember when that was a thing? This was like the one time that her name was trending, and it was actually because she died. So that was a sad end to 2021. But, 85.
Do you have any nominees, Billy?
I'm looking. I'm trying to figure that out because Tom Hanks, I feel like could
Too
get
young.
there.
No, he's too
at
young.
some-
William
No, I know,
Shatner? Is William
he's
Shatner?
real young.
Shatner's
he's-
old.
It will be Tom Hanks in 20 years.
But the thing is that Betty White was a remarkable presence given her age. Like, she was in a television show last decade in her 90s. Like, she was still
she was
kind of
with it.
out in front
with it.
making stuff. Which is why I mentioned Henry Winkler, because I believe, is he in Barry? Is he in HBO's
Yeah,
Barry?
he's in Barry.
Yeah.
He's in Barry.
Like, I think he's still going to be making stuff for a while.
Shatner's like 90-something sneaky.
Yeah, 93. I think.
Shatner hasn't made anything since Shit My Dad Says on CBS, right? Like, he's...
Well, he went to space.
He'd go to space.
Yeah,
Well,
That's
he
a
did go
big
to space.
point in his favor.
I mean, like, in terms of us hearing him speak.
It's a great question by you, though, Whitty. Somebody gets to replace Betty White, right, as beloved old person, and how old does that person have to be? Because Henry Winkler, I do think, is too young yet. I don't think you can be in your 70s. That he's younger than my father, Henry Winkler, is. I think the person...
Maybe it's your dad.
It could have been your dad. I'm just saying, like,
He threw it all away, but it could have been your dad.
You know what's amazing about this? I have a deeply personal story to tell you about weeping with my father on Christmas Day, just sort of talking to him about the blessing that was that show to do. And I was just so grateful for it. And it's just so amazing and cold that he just didn't want to do it anymore at the end. That he was just like, you know what, I'm tired. I wonder if Corso has those days, or Dick Vitale is going in and out of the hospital to do some of this.
Well, Lee Corso's a good shout for this very thing.
That's definitely the sports version of Betty White right now.
Terry
Whoa.
Bradshaw, I feel like fills that category too. If we're doing sports,
That's
people.
too young, though.
You can't
no?
be a loose cannon.
But wait, that's too young. Corso, again, I think you almost have to be over 80. Do you not? Like Bobby
Is he
Bowden.
Bradshaw? How old is he?
He's 73. He's not that old.
Oh wow.
Corso is
He's been on
73.
Medicare less than a decade.
Corso is 86.
I don't think he needs Medicare.
Terry Bradshaw, prior to this conversation, would have ventured as a name for Secret to Aging. Look 60 for 40 years.
Yeah.
Well, he fooled Billy, because Billy, evidently Terry Bradshaw has been 60 since he was a champion quarterback for the Steelers, and Billy thought he was 100 and something.
Morgan Freeman, 84.
No, he's
Wow,
got some
he's
questionable
84.
stuff
he's
there,
got
though.
some cancel culture stuff.
Okay. Withdrawn.
Yes, you
This
have.
is the tough thing, because I think the older you get, the higher likelihood that you've maybe said or done something in your past that people will find objectionable. And this is why Betty White is so irreplaceable as a pop culture icon, because she, to my knowledge, was always on the right side of things and someone that people couldn't hate on for whatever reason.
I think Billy just did that with Terry Bradshaw because he appeared this season with a Band-Aid on his face. And that's generally not a
You can't do that.
not a sign for good age.
There's
You
no
know-
coming back from that.
They really shouldn't have been shooting him from that side. I got to be honest with you. Just stand him on the other side so you don't see that side of his face. You're only seeing half his face. Stand him on the other side.
Or just use a
Seemed like
metric
an
ton
easy
of
fix.
makeup and ditch the Band-Aid.
Or he doesn't have to work that day.
That's fair.
Nah, he has to work.
He's
He
a
has to
football
be there.
player, Dan. He's not
Hang
gonna.
on. Another thing that we
He's got a
missed
cut
over
on his face. He's not going to show up to work. What is this?
we missed over
Metal alert
vacation.
policy?
Fox's attempt to do fake snow at the LA lot that they have for Christmas Day.
That was fake.
That's what that was?
That was absurd. What was that? Faking snow in like, we know that you broadcast from Los Angeles.
I thought it was real.
What are you
Yeah,
doing
me
putting
too.
snow on the ground and having poor
Christmas
Michael
miracle.
Strahan stand out there with a coat and gloves? He must have been sweating.
Hit the siren.
profusely.
Where's the siren?
Are we going to do this? Whittingham, how have you become this?
Oh, we can say book 'em, Dan. Now. That's a great idea.
Stugatz can say it, right?
Detective Tony should say it.
Yeah, it's me, Dan.
I don't understand what's happening with you, Whitty, in that this has seemed, over the holidays, it seems like there's been an escalation on you not wanting others to have any kind of joy.
Santa take you cold? What's going on here, buddy?
What happened? Like, what's it?
I was on Christmas watching Fox going, it's Los Angeles. I see palm trees in the background. Where could there be snow in the midst of palm trees? It was like 50 degrees that day, which is cold by Los Angeles standards, but like there had to have been a production around Michael Strahan wearing a coat and gloves. Michael Strahan works a lot in New York. Like, I would imagine he knows what cold is.
I'm going to explain this to you in as simple a terms as I possibly can because it's a funny complaint for you to have. But television as an entity can be remarkably stupid and easy to do. And what conjured the thought for me is the Larry Sanders Show. I was catching up on some old episodes of that. Gary Shandling, well ahead of his time on what it is.
Was the sound on?
Well ahead of his time on what he was doing. Now, for this particular gig, it would be unnecessary for the sound to have been on because Hank Kingsley, his sidekick, was just dressed as a fish. And he didn't need to say anything because television's that easy. He was headed out to do a late night show dressed as a fish and just make it snow. Just do things that look good visually. It doesn't matter what anyone's saying and just wear a fish costume.
I was blown away by how bad the New Year's Eve television experience was because I didn't do anything this New Year's Eve. So I like to plop on it. I like to throw on some CNN, the Anderson Cooper, Andy Cohen, a little Channel 10 with Ryan Seacrest. You know, every channel's got their thing. NBC had Miley and Pete Davidson, and they're all putting, I can only imagine all these combined, the money that goes into this, and it's so cringeworthy. I mean, Anderson Cooper and Andy Cohen have chemistry together, so theirs is bearable. It is just crazy. Pete Davidson, Miley Cyrus, they're like, these guys are cool. This is going to be good. It's cringe. It's just hard to do that and to seem natural. And it's just, I was just thinking about the money that must have been spent on all these channels and how cringeworthy all of it still is.
I was not watching television with the sound up that night. So you helped me with what was done on New Year's Eve. It used to be Dick Clark. It used to be New York. That couldn't be because of the pandemic. And Dick Clark we've lost him as one of our beloved old people. So what was it? It was in Miami, wasn't it? One of the big spectacles?
It was just Miley performing with a bunch of cool people and Pete just doing his thing. Like, I don't give a shit about this. I'm just going to keep taking cracks at it.
The CNN one was still in New York and they still did like the huge ball dropping thing, but I think they like reduced capacity or something. But then they swore in the new mayor on New Year's Eve, when the ball dropped. Did you guys see that?
And then Andy Cohen just went on some de Blasio rant. That was hilarious.
Yes, he did. It was weird. I'm like, I didn't know this was a thing. That one was like particularly
That
odd.
one was the most palatable. Like that one, you could tell those two are real friends, so there's chemistry there. But man, Ryan Seacrest, he's replaced. It's Ryan Seacrest's New Year's Eve. He's replaced Dick Clark, and he's like trying to talk to people, and it's just like, hey, what are your New Year's resolutions? Nothing. And it's like so cringe, and it's like the months that must go into this prep, and it was just like I was just blown away by how much money's being spent on it and how much effort's probably being put into it. And it's just still like, you know, I was literally thinking, and I know I was like, we could do what they're like, if they were like, you guys go host and it was that bad. I'm not saying but our chemistry would at least show. Like there's just no chemistry in these shows and you have to have that.
I can't imagine how hard it must be to do the empty platitudes of New Year's Day, of New Year's Eve. You have to say, it's going to be a big year, 2022. Wow, what a year it was, 2021. Looking back,
the new thing.
So many things have happened.
You hate New Year's
There's
also.
a pandemic.
Hit the alarm. Book them, Dano.
It stinks so much Tony already doing it lazily. Book him, Dana. You're like showing up with your handcuffs. You're shuffling over, and you're already bored with this bit.
I'm trying to help Chris's point that New Year's Eve shows suck.
But actually,
would anyone argue that they're good?
But
would
again-
anyone argue that like saying dumb shit about the passage of time
But it's
is
actually
useful?
they're not faking. Like now though, they're all saying, "Oh, we know it's been a hard two." Like they aren't faking it with saying it's been such a great year because these 2 years have been so bad. All of them are saying the opposite. They're saying, we're gonna get through this together, kind of thing. It's not like, oh, this is all great.
That might be part of it, though. That it feels slightly less festive when you're in New York with a quarter of the people and they're all wearing masks and you can't see their smiles because everyone's scared of each other because there's a disease sweeping through the world.
But also, proposals on New Year's Eve, kind of lame, right?
Oh my God.
What's wrong with this guy? You know what? Book him, Dano.
What do you think a witty wedding would look like? Like, anytime any bell or whistle is brought up as something that they could have, like, hey, you want to do like the, extra, whatever, flowers or these fireworks, or what do you want to do? Like, nope, let's just get through it.
The girdle thing, definitely not happening.
No chance.
I'll be honest, when Mike Golick brought up the ice sculpture that he bought for his daughter's wedding, I was like, ice sculpture seems unnecessary. Gaudy, even.
You know what to do, Dano.
Whitty at a wedding probably judges every single speech so harshly. He probably goes home and breaks down every speech in a Google Doc and word by word what grammar they should have used, what mistakes they made, which jokes landed, which didn't, how long it was. He's breaking down all of that.
Yeah. I suspect at his wedding he'll toast himself.
You did a best man speech before. I imagine the prep you did for that must have been
Actually,
crazy.
I did absolutely no prep. I had,
Oh,
you know
here we
why?
go.
Because I find, and you can fire off the sound, I find most wedding speeches. Wedding
You
speeches
called for the ISO already when he went, I find. I'm like, oh, God.
Well, wedding speeches, most of them are cringe, right? You sit at the wedding and you go, shut up, man, this is going on too long. So I said, I have one anecdote, toast to the bride and groom, move on with the night. So I told my anecdote, toast to the bride and groom, and we moved on. And I think the people there were appreciative that it was quick.
That you sped through the joy and the love.
Exactly.
What was your opening joke? You know you had a joke to start. Come on, give it to us.
I don't remember, actually. I have to go back and watch the video.
Chris, has anyone asked you to make a speech at a wedding?
My brother has not yet. No, I've been a groomsman. Never even gotten the big seat. I've been in the groomsman, but I have yet to give a speech.
I would love to see you give that speech.
For my brother, I've already got it written. There's plenty of stuff there.
I like the idea.
Be
of
careful.
You loosening your tie a
Seen
little
some of those
bit.
things go sideways.
Have you had
I've
any?
given two maid of honor speeches, including one in this past week, and I have to toot my own horn for a second. I crushed both of them. No big deal.
You didn't have to toot your own horn for a second.
But I wanted to.
Why don't you give the speech now and we'll tell you if it was good or
recreate it.
not.
Wow.
What?
Everyone thinks their speech is good, and I got to tell you, like 80% not good.
Wow,
and another,
Billy just
a very-
escalated the stakes
No,
right there.
because-
Fire off the police sound for Billy.
because to Whitty's point, what ends up happening in a lot of these maid of honor and best man speeches is the person ends up just talking about themselves, and it's like, this is not
That is
about
so
you
true,
today.
Billy.
This is about
That is
the
spot
wedding
on.
couple.
My speech was not about myself. I like briefly talked about how I knew the bride, but it was about her mostly, and I made fun of her most of it.
I actually have my opening joke for my brother's speech prepared. You guys want to hear it? The opener?
Please.
Of course.
All right, here we go.
Is your brother headed toward marriage?
He's got a long-term girlfriend. Who knows? All right. What a beautiful... love is in the air, is it not? What an emotional day. What an emotional day. I mean, look at the cake. Even the cake's in tears.
Jesus Christ.
Awful.
That was a great joke, Chris Cody, presented by Sheets and Giggles. You put the giggles in Sheets and Giggles. Chris Cody.
Mike Bryan.
Chris, do you remember when your beer options actually tasted like beer?
What a time.
Maybe you veered from the course because I only drink one light beer, and that's Miller Lite. And it always has been there for me. It's great tasting light beer for people who love beer, like me and your dad.
Oh my God. No one's had more Miller Lite in their life, in their childhood than me. That doesn't sound great because my dad just drank it so much. It's all I ever knew.
I'm trying to catch up to your dad. Have you ever had a moment, often after your first sip of beer, Chris, where you look around at your friends and you think, yeah, this beer this beer right here was the right call. Because I have that feeling all the time. Because I perpetually drink Miller Lite beer. Chris, don't you long for that feeling?
I always think of American Pie and that scene where they toast, and they're all looking at each other like at the end of the party. And I want to have a Miller Lite in my hand for that type of toast.
Oh, nothing quite like Miller Lite, back patio, overlooking a lake. I've never actually experienced that, but I imagine it's incredible. Miller Lite is brewed for taste. Man, Miller Lite just hits different than other light beers. It's made from simple ingredients. Miller Lite is for people who love the taste of beer. Malted barley gives it that rich, balanced toffee note flavor and that golden color you know and love. It's won multiple beer cups, Chris Cody.
How many?
Multiple.
What?
Yeah, they don't just give those things away. What always gets me is the triple hops brewed process, because they could have stopped at 2, and they were like, no, keep that sucker going. And I think it's that third hop brewing process that really gets Miller Lite cooking.
Third time's a charm.
I think so. Since 1975, Miller Lite has been the beer with taste you can depend on. No gimmicks, just great beer. People, do me a favor. Go to wherever they sell beer. That's where you can get Miller Lite. And pick up a nice case of Miller Lite. Miller Lite, great taste, 96 calories. Go to MillerLite.com/Dan to find delivery options near you. Celebrate responsibly. Miller Brewing Company, Milwaukee, Wisconsin. 96 calories and 3.2 carbs per 12 ounces. Go to MillerLite.com/Dan to find delivery options near you. Go to MillerLite.com/Stu to find delivery options near you. Go to MillerLite.com/Beach to find delivery options near you.
Don Le Batard.
Mustard mixes with mayonnaise better than ketchup does.
What? What?
Yes.
No.
What you've just said is appalling. What you've just said is an offense to anyone who's ever eaten.
Stugats.
Ketchup. Oh, my God. I don't like it on anything, but...
What?
Ketchup?
Yeah.
You're un-American.
This is the Don Le Batard Show with the Stugats.
This might surprise you. I don't do resolutions.
I'm perfect just the way I am.
All right, tell us why resolutions are bad now, Woody.
Well, it's using the passage of time to mark self-improvement. Self-improvement should not be something you start on January the 1st. It should be a continual process you do throughout the 365 days.
I hate you.
He's so right, though.
Yeah, but he's not.
He's not.
No, he's not actually.
That.
Is that the one who was talking less? That's the guy who decided he was going to talk less?
Very efficient. Good job.
Rough start, yeah.
That was Lewis just firing off something from the beyond. I can't believe earlier this week we did not get to what should have been, and Stugatz corrected me after the show on Monday. He said, how was that not the funniest thing from the sports weekend? And he was totally right. The idea that with no self-awareness whatsoever, O.J. Simpson would look into a camera and call the behavior of Antonio Brown inexcusable.
It's the funniest thing of any weekend.
I mean, it's just unbelievable, really, that O.J. Simpson, again, got out of jail, and we all think that, well, maybe not all of you. Maybe some of you think that perhaps he's not a murderer, but I think...
Who among you?
I think
Reveal yourself.
Does anyone amongst us think he's not a murderer?
Am I offending anyone in the Zoom if I just assume that O.J. Simpson killed those people?
We good?
All right, we're good. You're good in a safe space.
All right.
he took time out, if indeed he did not kill them, from his time relentlessly searching for the real killers to tell us about his fantasy team and get mad at Antonio Brown. And really, I was waiting for him at the end to do some form of, if you throw your gloves in a fit, you must acquit. Like, I thought he was instead he just ended it. I thought the perfect way for O.J. Simpson to end a video in which he is calling the behavior of someone else inexcusable.
For what Tom Brady has done for Antonio Brown, for him to pull what he pulled today is completely inexcusable. Playoffs are coming up, and you pull this crap on a guy who really went out on a limb for you. Totally BS. Inexcusable. Take care.
Take care.
He stuck the landing, man.
I miss his signature. I'm just saying.
Hey, Twitter world.
Hey, Twitter world. Yeah, he knows how to be a I made a prediction a couple of years ago that he was going to end up having a podcast, but then I realized he would have to give that money to the Goldmans. So that was what happened there.
I'm sure it would be a good podcast. I'm sure a lot of people would listen to it. I'm sure there would be a great many interesting people on that podcast. It's one.
You think you'd get a lot? Wait a second.
You think that if OJ called you and said, "Hey, come on my podcast," that someone would say, "Yeah, okay, sure."
I'm just waiting for a publicist to put out, we got this movie dropping. Yeah, let's go do the OJ podcast.
Well, because OJ Simpson can't, like you said, he can't basically make money off of anything that's not going to get taken from him. I do believe that there would be a market to hear OJ Simpson talk. Do you not? Like
I follow him on Twitter and I watch those videos. I kind of feel a little dirty about it, but I still watch him. When he does those videos, you see a guy that was absolutely a crossover star. He's charismatic.
I would watch another OJ documentary. I would watch the one. There's one.
The first one wasn't long enough.
Yeah, for real.
It was that good, the first one, that I would watch another one about what was his life in prison like. I have not heard this man talk in ways that give you access to what is indisputably one of the most interesting lives in the history of American cinema.
I am with you. I'm with both of you and Mike, because I think there is a huge audience for an OJ podcast and things that OJ has to say, but he's not giving up that money to the Goldmans. He's not going to do it. Like that's why you'll never hear it,
I don't know why, and I don't know if I am right on the idea of people wanting more OJ Simpson content. I just know I'd be interested in what his life has been, because he's got a perspective, not told by him, Stugatz. His perspective is, this happens to a lot of people in Scandal, where they're like, I don't understand what you guys think is the viewpoint of me. Every time I go out, I'm surrounded by people who love me and want to spend time with me, and it's a big party, and my life hasn't changed all that much now that I have freedom. I'm always surrounded by people who are slapping me on the back and giving me this celebrity bubble of I'm O.J. Simpson. I don't hear them laughing when they walk away. I don't hear them pretending like they never wanted to be next to me to begin with. He's one of the most famous people in a country that values fame. I misspoke a second ago when I said in the history of American cinema. I meant in the history of American celebrity. You can claim that that's one of the most interesting lives that we have seen. All of it, even before what we all think that he did. But how does no one in that group of fantasy league players, because you guys talk about the different experiences we have depending on our angle, he's surrounded by fantasy buddies, and you think he's going to have trouble getting people on his podcast? Like, you think that if O.J. Simpson decided that he wanted to be famous in America again, as in this America, a polarized America where anybody can make a buck in any lane, you guys think it would be hard for him to make those dollars?
O.J. calls Chad Steele, media relations director for the Ravens, and requests Lamar Jackson. You think Chad Steele's going to put Lamar on OJ's show?
Chad Steele specifically? No. I don't think Chad Steele will put anybody on any show.
You're right.
For the most part. But no, I don't think he's going to get, actor X to appear because he has friends in a fantasy league, Dan. I was struggling to make the connection
calls the
there.
Bills and asks for Josh Allen.
I'm not talking about him going through public relations. I'm talking about him using the power of being O.J. Simpson. If O.J. Simpson decided that he was going to try to withstand all of the blowback that would come from not being sponsored and people, he was going to write a book. What if I did it? This is how I would have done it.
If I did it, yeah.
And it wasn't allowed to be published because of all the legal hurdles that it has to jump. I'm talking about just being a famous Hollywood person with access, for example, to the Kardashians. You don't think that he could just cash celebrity again and again?
No, because I don't think those, if he does have friends in celebrity, I don't think that they'll go public with the fact that they're his friends.
You don't think Kanye West would appear on the O.J. Simpson podcast?
No, Kanye absolutely would. Kanye absolutely would, and he might give him a feature on his album.
It would be a safe space for a whole lot of people who wanted just the...
but what are you saying? Like, what type of... I don't think Jeff Saturday is going to appear on his show.
Right, who are we talking about here? Let's be clear.
Kanye and Marilyn Manson, probably. Yes. Like, DaBaby probably shows up. People that feel ostracized because he knows exactly what that feels like. And he might affirm some of that stuff for people.
I also think people just want to hear from O.J. Simpson. That's not a verified account from him, right, though? But how many followers does he have?
Is he not verified?
The name O.J. Simpson still carries what kind of weight? I can't believe we spent this much time on this when I wanted to go through the funny
I truly
of
believe
this.
that you do want to see another documentary.
Mm-hmm.
I'm worried that we're going to start recording with OJ every Wednesday now.
Could we risk it?
He has just under 1 million followers.
Could we risk it, Billy? What do you think about trying to make that the blowback would be so bad? Oh my God, would the blowback be bad?
Would we ask him the hard-hitting questions?
Yes, of course, but he would deny them all.
He seems like he probably wouldn't agree to come on Wednesdays then.
We can't have O.J. Simpson on this podcast. We can't do that.
We can't?
No.
Oh.
If we were asking him all the difficult questions, if we were trying to do it journalistically.
Did you do it? That's where we start.
That's right.
It would be on Zoom, right?
How do you imagine that goes? OJ, did you do it?
How's the search for the killers going?
If he walked into this studio right now, I think I'd get chills.
Yeah, because we believe him to be a murderer.
You say that, but I think he'd charm you all because he's always done that his entire life.
I don't think he would.
My dad got his autograph one time on a menu. He gave it to me, and me even as an 11-year-old, I'm like, Dad, what the is this?
I think Dan is right. I think he'd walk in here, he'd throw out a few compliments, he'd give us a smile, a little wink, and he'd walk out and we all be like, not that bad.
Didn't you guys have OJ on the old radio show? You did.
Yeah,
a long
time ago. I've talked to him. I've interviewed him a couple of times, but I would say to you, Mike, that I think you underestimate where this guy got to in Americana because of how charming he could be with those in-person transactions where people tend to put down some of all their moralizing principles and all the stuff you could do on social media, that when you're presented with the humanity of someone being graceful in front of you, after a lifetime in Hollywood of perfecting what that grace looked like before prison, that he comes out of prison, when you see all these tabloid stories about O.J. Simpson surrounded by dancing blondes kissing him at nightclubs, it might not appeal to you, but O.J. Simpson has largely walked back into a life where commercially it's not allowed, but his interactions in celebrity sound like they were a lot like they were before he went to prison.
I feel like the best case scenario after meeting O.J. Simpson, it would be, oh yeah, he was charming, ... for a murderer.
Yes, charming murder.
Well, it goes without saying.
What a charming murder. I think you would turn to everybody and say, what a charming murderer.
My New Year's resolution was to think about O.J. Simpson less, and so far I'm off on a really bad foot.
Can you call him a murderer like that if he was found? But he was found guilty in a civil suit. He was found responsible for the deaths. So if one of the courts says you're responsible for it, then I think you can go with it.
You want me to put alleged in front of alleged?
I think you should, just to be safe.
No, this is a safe space. As far as, we're not talking, please don't sue me, OJ. Please don't.
What? We're on air?
But I think this is a safe space where we're all working under the impression that he is indeed a murderer.
Who's the oldest celebrity with a podcast? Because he's 74.
The oldest celebrity with a podcast.
You know it off the top of your head?
I'm trying to think, because when we were having this conversation earlier in the week about oldest people in America that are beloved, I wanted
OJ's not part of that.
No, I wanted to nominate Bob Barker, but I didn't know if he had a bunch of questionable stuff in his past.
Yeah.
I think he did, because I think Bob Barker is still with us. So you made me go back into the file in my head of people between 75 through 100. I don't see them really engaging a lot in the digital space. Do you? Do you feel like podcast is the realm where you're going to find a lot of 75-year-old hosts?
98 years old, Bob Barker, still with us.
Wow.
He looks every day of it, too. No offense, Bob Barker.
No offense. Jesus, Billy. What do you mean, no offense, Bob Barker?
I love Bob Barker. Listen, Dan, I wanted to go to California to be on The Price is Right before Bob Barker left, and then Drew Carey took over. That was one of my childhood dreams, and it never happened, but
I love the idea.
lived, you know?
I love the idea of Billy being on The Price is Right, being the third guesser in the opening game, and then taking 10 minutes to figure out whether he's going to say $301 or $360 that microwave cost.
The thing with the one game is that if you're third, it's dangerous, because then the person after you just says two. You know what I mean? You can only do the one trick if you're the last one to go.
Not to beat a dead horse with the People magazine Betty White conversation, the headline of the story they published on December 28th was, Betty White reveals her secrets to a happy life at 100. Quote, I'm so lucky to be in such good health.
Billy, you can't.
Is that a snort from Billy?
Billy, Billy, what was that sound? What just happened?
It was a mixture of a laugh and a snort.
And you held your hand.
I thought I'd covered it.
Lord.
It snuck out between two of your fingers, Billy, that were covering your mouth and your nose. This is you just took out Bob Barker, and now you laughed at the death of Betty
he's
White.
right about Barker. It's like, Dan, have you seen Barker?
On.
No, it's
come
downhill.
On.
I mean, Dan, I'm going to show you a picture of Barker,
come on.
Dan.
I don't want to talk about whether Bob Barker looks every one of his 98 years.
It was like the Madden curse had one last laugh after John Madden died, and it was the People magazine cover of Betty White.
Billy.
Listen, to Bob's credit, I'm not going to get to 98, right? Like, I'll never look like that, so good for him.
To Bob's
This
credit.
is an old 98, though. I mean,
I was at my in-laws' house, and when the Dan Reeves news popped up, he's like, there it was, 3. Are you guys believers in this, the deaths come in threes thing? I know, like right here, I know this week, Betty White, John Madden, Dan Reeves, but it's all bullshit. Like everyone knows that that's not really a thing. That deaths aren't connected and these things are all random. My father-in-law, smart man, is just like, there it is, the 3rd. I'm like, this is like all random shit, right?
101-year-old Ida Schuster is the oldest podcaster in the world.
Oh. What does Ida talk about?
Youth.
The actor is hosting Old School with her life story of growing up in a Jewish immigrant family in the Gorbals area of Glasgow and a journey through her childhood, the war years, and her long career on stage and screen.
Ida Schuster died in 2020.
Shoes.
Oh, man.
Well, she was once the oldest podcaster in the world.
There's the 3rd.
Shoes.
That's what everyone calls her.
She was once the oldest podcaster. Woody, I hate you.
Now it's Greg Cody.
There.
Don Lebatard.
Tony, try to explain yourself. Pineapple does not belong on pizza. It's yellow. I know cheese is kind of orangish yellow, but the kind of yellow a pineapple is, nobody wants that on their pizza. It's gross. Explain yourself.
Stugats.
This is a hill that I am willing to die on. This is a hill that I have put the flag in the ground and said, this is my hill. Nobody can come close. The reason is not the color, Chris. I think that's where you're mistaken. It's the flavor. So what I do is I get a pepperoni and pineapple, and that you get the salty and the sweet flavor together, and it creates an umami, desired taste. And that's what I think you're missing, is that you don't like sweet with salty.
Right. I don't drink orange juice with my pizza. I don't drink pineapple juice with my pizza. It's because I'm eating pizza. I'm not here for the fruit.
This is the Don Lebatard Show with the Stugats.
What do we talk about? What do you guys tell your family members who don't really know what you do when you're home for the holidays or at a wedding or something?
I tell them I'm still trying to figure it out.
Mm-hmm.
I say we're a sports show, but we talk about everything.
Whatever comes to mind.
I must admit, this is the only time I ever miss working for ESPN because it was so easy to say I work for ESPN and for them to understand that.
Right.
I find myself saying I used to work for ESPN in order to convey what it is that I do.
Right. Because you don't want to explain it, right?
That's what I do.
Yeah.
I say, well, I work for Dan, who used to work for ESPN.
It's tricky.
You're right. ESPN was so simple and impressive. Not that this isn't, by the way.
I was just going to ask that. Is that to intimate that this isn't?
I just work for Dan now.
Good saves, you guys.
Thank you.
Kick save and a butte.
I mean, listen, Dan, he's not ESPN, but he's the next best thing, right?
I would say so.
Thank you,
There's
Jazz.
a question mark at the end, right?
I want to get to this majestic photo that was taken over the holidays that went viral and was described as the most divorced photo you've ever seen in your life. And it was Jeff Bezos wearing a $1,200, very loud pattern fitted shirt, and just everything Jeff Bezos related and what's happened to him since arriving at billionaire status and then leaving his wife in public shame that sort of disappeared, even though the National Enquirer seemed to have some things on Bezos that made him give half his fortune to his ex-wife, who then immediately became like the 9th wealthiest person in the world just by virtue of having that fortune. And then the pandemic has been even better to Bezos. So Bezos is worth more now than by lots than he was when he got divorced. But before I get to that story, I wanted to ask you whether you saw what Bills receiver Isaiah McKenzie did over the holidays.
No, what happened?
He put on Christmas Eve, because he went to go eat somewhere on Christmas Eve about 8:45 at night. He put on social media, anybody got food at their house? I'm hungry. It was closed Christmas Eve. Evidently, he hadn't accounted for the idea that there wouldn't be restaurants open. And
he's in Buffalo.
It's the night before the game, and he just showed up at some people's house who answered and had dinner with them because he was hungry. Like 15 minutes later.
So how did he play?
Some people who would be following. But how exciting is that? I mean, during COVID, less exciting. But how exciting, especially if it's Cole Beasley who's hungry. But let's just say that you're a fan of the Bills, and you respond to that, and 15 minutes later, his sports utility truck shows up at your house, and he's there having dinner with your family. That's a pretty cool moment for a sports fan to have with anybody.
It is a cool moment. You'd prefer Stephon Diggs, but that's
so you would have him FaceTime Stephon Diggs. Hey, can you call Josh Allen? Can you see if he's hungry too? I know you have dinner with my family, but is there anything I can have from you?
I mean, I'm feeding you, so give me something.
That's right. Of course, these transactions can't just be Stugat's giving. Where's the better thing for me? I'd rather have dinner with Josh Allen. How Stugat's is that?
Anyone would, though, right? I mean, anyone would rather have dinner with Josh Allen.
Okay, thanks, Stugatz. That's an important thing.
I was saying it's a nice thing. Okay. I'd rather it be Stephon Diggs.
It's an important thing for you to say, Stugatz, that it's not that nice a story. I'd prefer to have dinner with someone more famous than Isaiah McKenzie.
I hate myself.
I mean, so do I.
Just Googling right now. Jeff Bezos looks incredible.
Yeah, he does.
You seen him with his shirt off?
He's very fit.
I mean, I imagine when you have that much money, you can afford the best diet and the best trainers to make sure your body looks good. You guys ever start thinking about your own mortality and then think, well, Elon Musk and Jeff Bezos, they're going to find a way to not die. So we'll be all right.
I keep waiting for them to help us with the climate change stuff.
Right. But you've been waiting for 10 years, you have said.
Dan, I think it's pretty alarming that Bezos and Elon Musk are actively building rockets to
take us somewhere else.
Not
merely alarming that they're clearly not
they
doing
know something.
It's not that they know. They know they are mining the earth and destroying it so that they can live with their billions in the solar in the galaxy somewhere. Never dying.
But you've been saying for 10 years, maybe longer, that you're waiting around for someone to figure out to invent something that will allow us to live for as long as possible. I don't know if I would like that. I don't think I want to live that long. Sign me up for 100. I'm good.
I believe that you're misquoting me. What I have said for many years is I expect young people to be so dumb that in the future, when Bezos and Musk end up figuring this out, they will sell us their youth. They will figure out a way to allow the rich to extract the youth from the broke young, is what I have said.
Did you guys see that there was a time traveler that visited us?
What?
There's underreported, a time traveler from 3812 that lives on Mars, that says it was populated by China. She has photographic proof as evidence. She came back, and so the human race does live on. Really underreported.
What was I'm surprised that didn't get more attention. And
that and the UFOs.
More.
He shared a photo, and I was like, wow, there's still photos in 3812. Huh.
Can I see the photos?
Yeah, you can't see her face, though. She did a video. It's on YouTube.
Right.
Apex. Yeah, go ahead and check it out.
Right.
A lot of great news on YouTube that the mainstream media won't cover. I mean, imagine a time travel comes back to Earth from populated Chinese Mars, and we're not leading the evening news with it.
I'd love to give that person a podcast.
With OJ.
Just see where it goes. I really don't think...
We have that as a celebrity prognosticator. Surely she must know who wins Week 18. the 2022 season.
Billy, just out of curiosity, do you think that a Time Travelers podcast wouldn't be interesting enough unless it had O.J. Simpson? Like, why are you adding O.J. Simpson to that podcast?
Well, I mean, I think he needs a thing, right? So do it with a time traveler. Is she a space traveler as well? Because can you travel from, like, in time from planet to planet?
She goes in detail in this. Here's some quotes from her. She says, Mars is a very interesting, but at the same time, very frightening place. She also finds it interesting. Yeah, she also finds it interesting that only Chinese people live on Mars.
Mm-hmm. I'm sold. I mean,
the picture looks legit. It looks like a dystopian Mars, and there's spaceships. So
she brought photographs back from 1,500 years from now.
Yeah, and the photograph is crumpled, so you know that she found it important enough to crumple it up against her person.
I feel like
Wait a
we're
second.
doing
This
better than
Mars picture. It looks like the set of The Martian.
we're also doing better than paper in 1,500 years. There's no way that someone is time traveling 1,500 years from now with a piece of paper.
This is the questionable part of the story for you.
I love it.
This is where the story.
Mary.
This is where the story falls apart for you, Whittingham.
Yes.
The paper.
Old Detective Whittingham over here. Hold on a second.
Yeah, wouldn't like come back with an iPad or whatever the reasonable facsimile will be in 1,500 years from now. A piece of paper, not having it.
According to this video, she claims that 3812 is in the 38th century. I'm like, but then she clears up and says they don't use a Gregorian calendar.
Of course. I mean,
where she's from. It's no longer being used in the future.
I think you're burying the lead, though, which is right in plain sight during a pandemic. These billionaires have been literally racing to space right in front of our eyes to show us, hey, we're going to live up here when we've ruined everything down there, you realize.
Exchange rate in space, I would imagine that billions of dollars aren't going to mean much to, like, Martians, right?
Well, that's why you need it all in Ethereum, Billy.
Yeah.
This is where we're headed.
Space.
From a photo that I just wanted to make fun of. I just wanted to make fun of the Bezos photo because it was a $1,200 shirt, and it's an amazing shirt.
It's a great shirt that fits his body beautifully. His body looks incredible. He's getting his body to look young. Also, whenever I feel hope that Elon Musk and Jeff Bezos will find ways to live on throughout eternity, I think their consciousness is going to be around. Kind of like Morpheus in that new terrible Matrix movie. It'll just be a bunch of pebbles, but it'll be Jeff Bezos speaking to you from a non-Gregorian calendar future. I see Bezos doing all this self-improvement, hiring the best scientists to reverse the aging process, and yet still bald. How have we not figured this one out? Elon's figured it out.
It is an amazing thing for you to say, Mike, and you've heard me say before that I maintain that the greatest part of Michael Jordan's legacy, more than defying gravity or winning, is that he made bald cool, but not even he could do what you're asking Bezos to do, which is make bald not bald anymore and not look ridiculous. Although Drew Brees has done okay with this.
He did okay. No, Elon Musk made it work. Elon Musk, his hair was not a great situation, and he's got a decent lid for it being fake. But Bezos can't quite get it.
But at this point, he can't, though, right? At this point, he's chosen bald because he doesn't have to be bald. He could go Wayne Rooney's route. Doesn't that one look good?
No, Rooney, it started because Rooney didn't count for him losing even more hair afterwards. So it just looked worse and worse. McConaughey is a pretty good hair transplant. In his book, he says that it's not really a transplant, that he took prescriptions for it. But come on, man. Who are you fooling?
You're right. I mean, once you appear in public as almost like the bald supervillain, you can't really go back. Like if he just showed up tomorrow with a wig, you'd be like, "Come on, Jeff, what are you doing?" Like baldness is very much part of his aesthetic.
I don't think people actually will hold him accountable for showing up one day with a wig, because you're not going to tell Jeff Bezos. He doesn't surround himself with people that'll call him out. Look at John Travolta.
Yes, man.
Look at what John Travolta's gotten away with for the last 30 years. Shows up to one award show totally bald. The next award show, huge jet black lid. No one says anything.
You don't think a single person would call out Bezos if he suddenly appeared with a full head of hair?
No.
What are you kidding me?
Well, there's Stugatz. Okay, Stugatz. Fair enough.
I call him out. What's he going to do to me?
Explain John Travolta.
Not going to allow me into
I
space.
have an explanation for Travolta. The movie Grease. it's one of the best bits of movie hair that we've ever seen. And so that image of John Travolta will be forever in our minds. So if he's bald one day, whatever. But if he's got the good head of hair, it's like, Travolta's back.
I'm with Mike Ryan on this, and I don't think anyone else is, other than Travolta, is allowed to get away with this. John Travolta, if you've ever seen him in phases of balding, it looks like an old man. And then he reemerges with what can only be described as a pompadour. Like, it's a giant head of flowing hair that looks beautiful and ridiculous if you just recently saw him looking like J.K. Simmons.
But he makes sense with hair. We understand John Travolta with hair. Again, mostly from the movie Grease. And so I understand, like, it's not the same.
Back to Grease.
It's not the same with Bezos, where I understand Bezos is a bald man.
I think you're making a very good point. I like where your head and his hair is at. What I'm asking you is, who else do we allow to get away with it like that? Because Stugatz is right that, yes, if
Jamie
Bezos
Foxx.
did this, Jamie Foxx.
Yeah, we allowed Jamie Foxx to get away with it.
We did?
Are you just learning right now that Jamie Foxx is a bald man?
Yes.
Yeah, I didn't know that.
Huh.
Mike Ryan has a very keen eye on this
Weird.
stuff. He's keeping an eye on everybody for
he
fakery.
assumes that everyone watches famous people through the same prism that that I'm scoping out the fake hair of everyone.
He judges me when I say no.
I project my own insecurities onto the TV, and that's the first thing I look for. You guys don't do this?
No.
It's a totally normal human thing.
But I'm not.
Okay. Well, you also don't have a bad hair situation going on for yourself.
But I've never thought of Jamie Foxx that way. You were revealing that to me, as you often do around here with an assortment of people. It's not. It's
surprised you didn't notice that Jamie. How about Steve Harvey? Do you recognize that one? Well, I think he went public with it.
But Steve Harvey's bald.
Yeah, but
right?
you didn't know Steve Harvey was wearing a sponge on his head until he told you. Where I was 16 years old and being like, knew it, old news.
Again, weird.
So you were first to the Steve Harvey. I'm on to you, Harvey. You were.
I can't believe people didn't know that. I'm like, why is this news to anybody?
But you were fretting hair insecurities that long ago, back in the early days of Steve Harvey unveiling?
Yeah, because I had an inverted widow's peak. So I've always been kind of self-conscious about a bald spot on my head. That's why I couldn't really rock the Pat Riley.
Do you envy Steve Harvey's confidence? Steve Harvey seems to be somebody. What's
the appeal with Steve Harvey?
So with you on this, I don't get it. He's got 100 television shows. I don't get it.
Judge Steve Harvey, which would fairly to him, I'm going to watch Judge Steve Harvey. I actually find that one like so
Harvey.
absurd
Yes, Judge Harvey.
that I'm going to be in. If you actually give him like power, I want to see how this works out.
He's great at Family Feud.
No. He is not great at the Family Feud.
He's great at Family
He
Feud.
turns the Family Feud into the Steve Harvey show.
does.
The star of the feud is the board and the game. It's not Steve Harvey, and he's now they've done the thing where everyone knows that if you make a sexual suggestion, Steve Harvey's gonna make a face, and so all the clues
the host's
now.
job.
He's good at the face, though.
He's good at the face, but
He's
now they
good at-
clearly cook up the questions so that someone can say, make whoopee,
Chris
and he
is
makes
right.
the face.
You do
It's
the
so
stupid
contrived.
answer,
That's a
you get the
newlywed
response.
game.
That's
Yes.
part of the game. If he did nothing, then that would be not as funny. You're way
The
off on
feud's
this one.
always been about the host, okay? Since the beginning of time.
But
It was about Richard Dawson when he was hosting it.
How does he get so many hosting opportunities? Like
He's good at it.
He's good at it.
Smooth.
He's good at it. He got the name wrong of the country someone was being represented in the Miss Universe pageant.
That was amazing.
Like, he's good at
That
it.
was good for
How
the
can you say
pageant.
he's
That
good
was
at
good
it?
for the
That was good
pageant.
for the
That was good for the
pageant.
That's an
pageant.
amazing thing to bounce back from. That didn't even stick to Steve Harvey. He's had 100 television shows since then.
I mean, to be fair, it happened to the Oscars. The Oscars got the one thing wrong you can't get wrong. La La Land thought they had it, man. Poor La La Land. We didn't do enough with that.
Billy, I have not heard enough of your opinions here because Whittingham and they were and Mike they were a bit bullying in thinking that their opinion on Steve Harvey and Family Feud is the correct opinion. I think that you speak for much of America when you rally and tell us how great Steve Harvey is at Family Feud.
I don't even understand how you're saying that he's bad. Like, what is he bad at? What about the feud is not good? It's an entertaining. Who are you pining for to host the feud? Al from Home Improvement again, because that went so well when he hosted the Family
Richard
Feud.
Karn. I'm longing for
Gene
Richard
Peterman
Karn
from Seinfeld.
Richard Karn was excellent.
What was the feud thinking with Al from Home Improvement?
Richard Karn was an excellent host. And did you know that he just started an exclusive NFT? Richard Karn?
No, get out of here.
Yeah, I happen to follow Richard Karn at the Richard Karn.
No.
You can go to superphantom.io/Richard Karn and take part in an exclusive NFT drop. So you are looking right now at the proud owner of 3 Richard Karn NFTs.
Wow, way to go.
When one of them says, "I don't think so," Tim. Like, what's the big?